Hi there. My name is Michael Nagdi. I'm a co-founder of the Prime Barrel. We are a whiskey club that specializes in single barrel selections and expressions. But we are much more than that. We offer a plethora of other perks to our members, ranging from virtual tastings of different whiskey portfolios and brands every month to physical experiences. That could be anything from visiting a distillery to a barrel selecting expedition where we select a barrel together with our members in person. And by the way, we do that virtually as well. The club was always meant to be for the people. And as such, we always solicit feedback at the end of each year, asking our members, how did the year go? What has worked? What has not worked? And what are some of their ideas on how to make the club better? And today, I am going to walk you through the results of 2022 Year in Review survey that a lot of our members have filled out. So I hope you will find these enlightening and interesting. So let's jump in. Okay, so here's a quick agenda for some of the items that I'd like to cover today. We're going to review some of the top line factoids from 2022. I will definitely reveal your most and least favorite barrels of 2022. We're going to take a look at, as I call it, tater stickers. What were your favorites of 2022 and what the future is for them. I will review the barrel picking criteria because it appears that there is a good deal of confusion as to how we go about selecting barrels. I'm going to reveal a list of top requested and upcoming barrels in 2023 and actually beyond. We're going to talk about barrel release cadence. And again, the preferred cadence according to you. We'll do a stop, start, continue exercise. And this is where I reveal, some of the things that you'd like us to stop doing, some of the things that you'd like us to start doing, and some of the things that we've done well and you'd like us to continue to do. And then finally, I'll do a quick review of what the premium membership program that is going to be rolled out in a week is going to look like. So let's dive in. In 2022, we've launched 57 different single barrels of whiskey. That is pretty significant. If you're doing the math, that is one per week. It's actually more than one per week. Now, that number includes not just barrels that we selected for our club. Some of that are sourced barrels because as a club, we do help other groups and corporate entities procure, and we also fulfill for them. But all in all, we've done 57 barrels in 2022, and that is pretty exciting. We have helped 3,000 whiskey enthusiasts enjoy single barrel selections of ours. So the club is, 3,000 members strong and counting. So again, thank you for your support. A big part of what we do is giving back to the community. And that takes shape in the form of us giving back to, different charities. Just last year, we supported 30 different charities. If you guys have been with us for a while, we used to donate parts of proceeds from every barrel we select to different charities. That is changing, but not us donating, but how we donate. And I'll cover that a little bit further into the presentation. And we've raised over $50,000 just last year for different charity causes. And that, again, this is all thanks to you because you guys support us and therefore you support all of these great causes that this money goes to. So I thank you for that. And this is actually an interesting map of where our members are. As you can see, we are pretty much national, and I actually should say international, because what this map does not show are some of the markets that we send our selections to, most notably Australia, but we also send stuff to Europe and a few other markets as well. And again, we couldn't have done it without you guys. So thanks again. All right, so let's talk about some of your favorite picks of 2022. Number one on that list is Old Forester, Toys Not Bombs Bourbon. It was an interesting pick. Old Forester is always a crowd favorite. And looking a little bit ahead into the presentation, that's also going to appear on a list of top requested barrels for 2023. So that's not a surprise. What made this bottle unique is that majority of the proceeds from this barrel went to support kids from Russia-Ukraine conflict. This hit a little bit too close to home for us. A couple of members of our committee are from Ukraine, and so this was a no-brainer. The second favorite pick was a Blue Note juke joint, old school. There is a lot of good things about this particular barrel, but to me, the value for the money, how tasty it was versus how inexpensive it was, made it just irresistible. And this barrel sold out in the first 24 hours. So that was your number two. Number three is actually split between a Lucky 7 14 years old, what's in a bottle bourbon. Again, it's, Lucky 7 14-year-old bourbons are always a crowd favorites, and for a good reason. Those aren't MGP source bourbon, contrary to popular belief. Those are actually Kentucky bourbons. Now, where they source them is still a mystery. The brand does not disclose that, but rest assured that most of them are pretty solid, and this one was no exception. The other one, though, was a surprise, which is a Starward bottle. And again, Starward is the brand that is fairly unknown in the United States. It's an Australian brand. They made their name in whiskey making by finishing their whiskey in Australian wine barrels, most notably Shiraz. But every once in a while, they do get a barrel that is not necessarily wine finished. And this one was just that barrel. This one was the only barrel in the United States market, or one of the very few in the United States market, that wasn't wine finished. And this was actually 100% wheated single grain 70-year-old Australian single barrel whiskey. It was finished in PX sherry. So if you're a really stickler for what I just said, it's technically is wine finished, but PX sherry is very common finishing in the bourbon world, and it differs greatly from more traditional wine finishes like Pinot Noir, for example. So this one was a great surprise to us. We kind of picked it on the whim because we love the whiskey so much, but we're super glad that you guys agreed with us on that one. Number 4 on this list is a distillery right next door to us. It's a Kings County distillery. We have a long-standing relationship with them, and through that relationship, we sometimes are able to get barrels others can't. And this was the case with this one. This battle kind of happened, outside of the normal cadence and schedule. And we were presented with an opportunity to select a barrel where most people probably wouldn't have this opportunity. And it turned out to be great. Again, Kings County is always outputs a quality product. This was no different. And finally, another surprise on this list. This is a Senator, Senate Struck 6-year-old rye. This is an MGP rye. And I'm going to touch on MGP whiskeys a little bit further, but this one turned out to be an awesome whiskey. Personally, I think it's in my top 3 for the year. I really enjoyed this selection. It's what the rye should be, in my estimation. Some of you might disagree with it, but a lot of you did agree with it, and that's why it's on a top 5 list. So that's all great, but now let's take a look on the flip side of this. And a flip side of this is the least favorite picks of 2022. Thankfully, they weren't a lot of those. You guys, and again, opinions vary greatly. One man's trash is another man's treasure, and this saying couldn't be more apt for the results that we were reviewing. Going back to the senator expression I just covered, there were a couple of people that absolutely didn't care for it. And then most of you said it was the best rye you've tasted all year. So, that happens a lot. And again, when you have a club of people with 3,000 members and counting, those things will definitely happen because everyone's palates is different. But I did want to get a little bit more specific about some of the feedback we've received about least favorite picks of 2022. And, the factors behind the cited examples were very different. For example, you guys didn't care for proof down expressions, more specifically, Elijah Craig proof down. And I totally agree. When you put a barrel proof Elijah Craig next to watered down, proof down expression, it's not, it's apples to oranges. Now, that's not to say that a proof down expression doesn't have its place under the sun. It certainly does. But for a whiskey club where a lot of us are seasoned whiskey drinkers, obviously the tendency is to go for the barrel strength stuff. Unfortunately, Elijah Craig does not offer barrel proof expressions in New York, and that's where our club is based out of. And so we kind of forced to play in that sandbox of not having access to it. Now, that's probably going to change at some point in the future as we're trying to expand into different markets. You guys didn't, some of you didn't really care for single barrel selections of anything other than whiskey. And if you've been with us for a little while, you'd know that we selected a barrel of tequila last year, and that was Don Julio tequila. Now, again, it's one of those things where it's not going to be for everyone. And one of the things we always try to do with this club is to expand people's palates. And Don Julio, to us personally, was a no-brainer because we have some history with the brand personally and professionally. The tequila itself was just outstanding, and it's different from your everyday normal Don Julio, which is also great, but it's different from it because it's higher proofed. It's and you don't see that every day. And a barrel of Don Julios are very few and far between. So for many reasons, including those I just cited, we had to pull the trigger on it. And the people that have tried it came back for seconds and thirds. And I couldn't tell you how many times when we go to in-person tastings, we bring that tequila along, and it always turns out to be a crowd pleaser, a crowd favorite. So those things will continue to happen. We will be selecting barrels of other liquids outside of bourbon. And if it's not for you, it's not for you. But we do encourage people to get a little bit adventurous and try stuff that you normally wouldn't. Some of the other examples cited was going back to that starward thing, but it wasn't necessarily the starward that people liked the least. It was an overall sentiment around wine finishes, and I totally understand that sentiment. Personally, I'm in the same camp. Personally, I think that a wine finish is really difficult to execute. But there are expressions that have done it successfully. And one of those finishes, honestly, was a Battle Craft Spirits whiskey that we brought in. That was also a PX finished one. And that's another one where a lot of people loved it. So to each its own, as they say, but we do treat wine finishes with caution. And if we bring something in that is wine finished, you can rest assured that the quality of it is on par with what we think it should be. And if your palate aligns with ours, then the chances are you'd love it as well. Another thing that was brought to light was a lot of you didn't really care for Sazerac barrels. Now, Sazerac is a different story. And a lot of you, said that you would want to see it also at the barrel proof expression. And that's an easy answer. Those, Sazerac rye does not exist in a barrel proof. But I totally agree that it would have been nice. Some of the things people brought up is that the pick was no different from any other selections in the store. Again, this is one of those things where to each its own. What I would say in regards to that, every barrel pick that we make is personally curated, meaning we had a chance of tasting through several barrels and pick the best one for us. So you can rest assured by getting one of our expressions that it's going to differ from your average bottle of Sazerac on the shelf through the sheer fact that we actually tasted and picked the best tasting one. So, take it for what it is, but I totally understand the sentiment behind it. Other interesting comments, we picked a lot of the barrels from the craft distilleries and not enough from, major producers. Well, there is a reason for that. And first of all, I disagree with that. I think there was a good mix between the two, but there's also a reason for that. The access to different brands is going to be different state to state, and a lot of times account to account. What makes our club special is our connections to different producers. And again, like we brought you guys Old Forester, we brought Elijah Craig, although albeit it wasn't battle proof, but this was one of the most requested ones. And there were a lot of others that people requested and we delivered on. So I don't necessarily agree on a sentiment of, hey, I'm not going to be in a club because you don't bring in Blanton's or you don't bring in Weller. And I'll cover that as well. But what we do, we select the best tasting whiskey as we come across it. And we would love for you, again, like if your palate aligns with ours, you can be rest assured that whatever we're bringing in, most times than not, you'll enjoy it. There were also interesting comments about young ages of some of the selections, especially with Garrison. Now, what people probably don't realize is that the Garrison Brothers bourbon, their single barrel program, those barrels are actually not a 53-gallon barrels. Those are smaller 30-gallon barrels. And a liquid tends to mature faster in those barrels. The liquid interacts with wood faster in a smaller barrel. And for that fact, the age expression isn't necessarily indicative of how good the actual whiskey is. So the age statement is not always an indicator of how good or bad the whiskey might be. So Garrison Brothers, again, it's a whiskey. If you've tried it, people become fans overnight. If you haven't tried it and you haven't pulled the trigger because of the price, it's totally understandable. It's not it's not the most economical expression that you might buy, but the prices are what the prices are, and we don't necessarily set those in terms of what they cost in our market. New York historically has been a market where pricing is always higher than in some of the other markets, but again, we are trying to navigate that through expansion into some of the other markets, and so stay tuned on that. All right, let's continue here on to more fun stuff, and that is, let's talk about stickers, right? So let's look at your favorite stickers of 2022. The first one is no contest. This was far and away your favorite sticker for the Battlecraft Spirits, the Donkey Kong. Now, this is a lenticular sticker. For the people that don't know what that is, it's we actually have a presentation, and this is what it looks like. This is one of those stickers where when you tilt it at any angle, the actual image changes. And the image here is the Donkey Kong with the barrel. And when you tilt it, the Donkey Kong smashes this barrel bourbon barrel on the ground. So it was very creative. And the theme for the sticker was actually suggested by our community. So if you aren't a part of our community, you can always join us on Discord, and you'll see a link to do that a little later in this presentation. The second favorite sticker was old school sticker from the Blue Note, the juke joint selection. And again, it's a cheeky fun sticker, obviously a play on the word blue, you my boy blue, and whiskey being great, obviously heard it. There was actually a tie for number two. This Doc Swinson Bugs Bunny got exact same amount of votes that the Blue Note did. And also, I'm not surprised, it's a cheeky play on the word Doc with the bugs, holding a tumbler. Number three was Lucky 7, Drink Lucky. And again, it's another tie between Lucky 7. And again, this is one of the stickers that was recommended by one of our members. The tie was between that and the Toys Not Bombs Old Forester selection that I've covered in the beginning of this presentation. And by the way, the artist that created the sticker also donated his fee towards the charity, which was an unbelievable thing for them to do. Number four was a barrel we launched in the beginning of last year, and that is the 1792 Foolproof barrel. The theme for that barrel was Party Like It's 1792, obviously a riff on Prince's classic, and that's why you see Prince on a sticker. Number four was also shared with another sticker, which was a sticker from Newell. Now, this one was a little bit controversial for the obvious reasons in the name, but we've actually asked a lot of our lady drinkers in the group, and they found absolutely zero problem with the theme of the sticker. And I think the sticker came out to be great. I am partial to it because I'm a huge James Bond fan. I'm glad that you guys love the sticker. And then number five was a tie between one of the Sazerac Rye barrels It's called Sazchmo, obviously a play on Satchmo, Louis Armstrong nickname. And him being from New Orleans, birthplace of a Sazerac drink, that was a no-brainer for us. And it was tied with a Rider Pig. And this one was cheeky enough, was suggested by our artist, who is a huge Simpsons fanatic. And this one is based on a classic from The Simpsons. As I mentioned before, majority of the stickers that we make or made were suggested by our online community. And this is a link where you can join that online community for free. It doesn't cost anything, but joining has very distinct benefits by basically being always in the know of what's going on, what's coming. We have a full list of previous as well as upcoming selections on there. So I would highly recommend joining the community, and you'll be able to communicate with other whiskey enthusiasts all around the nation. As you've seen, we have people from all over the place. We also have regional channels where you can get together with people in your neighborhood. All right, let's talk a little bit about future of those stickers. As you probably noticed, last few of our selections did not come with stickers. And there is a reason for that. And the reason being is that creating those stickers is a very time-consuming process. They take up just too much time between the design, between the execution, printing, and then once they actually get to our shop, there is always a yin and yang. Do we put the sticker on a bottle? Do we not put the sticker on a bottle? If you've been with us for a little while, we've put up multiple polls around, what should we do with those stickers? And again, there is no clear-cut answer. It's actually split pretty evenly, 50-50, between people wanting them and people not really caring for them. So it's difficult. And so we decided to compromise. So the crowd that actually wants the stickers, one of the most compelling arguments behind it is that the sticker personalizes the bottle. And so when people are looking at their shelves and they see the sticker, they automatically associate that bottle with the club that picked it. And I thought, I can get behind it. So what we've done instead, we've created a custom selected by the Prime Barrel sticker that goes on every bottle. So you'll know that this is that bottle that you got from us was actually picked by us, right? So every bottle will at least have that. That is in addition to a neck tag that might come with the bottle, or sometimes the brands themselves put our logo on bottle. So there won't be any confusion as to where that bottle was bought or who selected it. Now, some of the selections will still get the art or / tater sticker for, but it has to be like a very special barrel or a special occasion for which we would do it. And obviously, a lot of planning needs to go into it. And again, we'll ask the community, their input on which barrels should get that treatment. Now, what we've also done, we've created a stickers on demand option on our website. So because not everybody cares for stickers, we decided to give an option for people that do to still get it on demand. And that's exactly what you can do by navigating to primebarrel.com and then looking for stickers section, where we have the entire library of past stickers there, and you can buy any sticker that you might have missed on. And if this is something that kind of takes off, then we can just add art stickers to it without having to rush them, right? And so you can get a bottle of a drop, let's just say today, and then at some point in the future, you can go back and specifically buy a sticker should you so desire. Now, another thing, and this is getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, but looking into the future, we're also thinking about turning those stickers into actual digital collectibles, into NFTs. I fully realize that this is not going to be for everyone. I fully realize that some of those stickers, people prefer actual physical stickers and not a file on their computer or their phone or their digital wallet. But there's also a good crowd that sees a value for that as well. And so we are thinking about doing that moving forward. So just wanted to call that out. All right, let's talk a little bit about barrel picking criteria. Like, what is it we look for as a club? Again, because we had so many new members, I'm not sure people even understand on how we do this. So first and foremost, and this trumps everything else, taste trumps everything else. A lot of times when we taste a barrel or a sample, and again, people that have done it with us can attest to it, we do it blindly. And we do it blindly for one reason and one reason only, not to be swayed by the details of a sample that we're tasting, right? Because if you know ahead of time what you're tasting, a few factors can sway your opinion. It could be a mash bill that you're partial to. It could be an age statement. It could be many different things. And so for that reason, we always taste everything blind. And we rate everything on a scale of 0 to 10. And we rate every sample on 3 different categories. We rate them on nose, we rate it on palate, and we rate it on the finish. As I said, we rate it on a scale 0 to 10, 5 being an average. If it's a 5, it's just an average. So it's 50-50. If it's below 5, that's probably when we don't make a selection, and we would bet you probably wouldn't buy a bottle of it either. If it's above 5, this is when we do make a selection a lot of times. And the level, the score is the varying levels of how much do we actually like it. Obviously, with 10 being must have, in reality, most selections kind of fall between 4 and 8. I'm still to give a score of even 9 to anything that we've tasted. Like, it's really reserved for something super extraordinary. This is another point is worth mentioning. So we purposely go after different profiles because we don't want to be picking the same profile over and over and over again. It just becomes tiring and not interesting. And a lot of you have said that to us. Hey, I bought a lot of selections from you. Most of them I agree with, some of them I disagree with. And that is totally normal. It's not like not every selection is going to be for everyone, although we don't select them specifically to be different. We still value the taste. As I said, taste trumps everything else. But there are different things that we kind of look for in different selections. For example, like I said, it was Starward is a good example of that. It was a wheated Australian whiskey. You don't get that a lot, but the whiskey itself is damn delicious. And so that's why we brought it in. Senator Rye was another example of that. I honestly, when I was tasting it, I didn't even know what I was tasting. It was one of those things that my team kind of surprised me with. And after I tasted it, I was like, we need to have it. This is awesome. And then they told me what it is, and we brought this in. So, but we do go for different profiles, and we are being very upfront about the tasting notes and the process of how we go about it prior to you making a decision. So this is another value of Discord. You can actually chat with us, with other members that perhaps helped with a selection to kind of get more details on a selection process. We do normally stick to barrel strength if possible. Again, the example that I gave earlier with Elijah Craig not being available in the market is a different story. When it's not available, it's not available. Normally, we kind of stick to the barrel strength. And the reason for that is obviously, if it's too hot, you can always dilute it down, proof it down with just ice cube and get it to the point where you feel comfortable drinking it, but you cannot go the other way. So barrel strength is where it's at for us. Have we picked selections that weren't barrel strength? Yes, but that's exception rather than rule. The next point is about, having a nice balance between known commodities and craft. For the crowd that wants only the big names, you should know that there are only so many big names in the market, right? I mean, there's like 7 or 8 big distilleries, and that's that. If you were always going for the known commodities, there wouldn't be any selection. And again, I go back to the mission of the club, which is to expand people's palates. That would hinder that mission quite significantly. So we do select from a lot of craft distilleries, but I keep coming back to the point that I made earlier. Taste trumps everything, and it has to be a good tasting whiskey for us to bring in. We don't necessarily look at the label a lot of times, although we do look at it from the marketing perspective. And after all, this is a business, and we need to be able to move inventory. That's a given. But in terms of the whiskey, in terms of what's inside the bottle, we've done many even anecdotal tastings, blind tastings, where we would put something that is very well known versus something craft, and people would go for craft most times than not. So if you fall into that trap of, look, I want only known commodities, I would encourage you to expand your horizons and to expand your palates. And one of the best ways to do that is through the club such as ours, where you at least get a curated selection. You're not buying a cat in the bag. You're relying on people that your palette has agreed with in the past. So I'll leave it at that. Yes, and we never select anything we do not taste. Like there were a few opportunities for us to bring in whiskeys where it was, take it or leave it kind of thing. And sometimes those are even from the very well-known brands that I know we could sell, but our credibility is the only thing that we have, and we're not willing to jeopardize it on selecting a barrel blindly and having it to be a dud. So we never do that. And then on occasion, we would partner with other known clubs, known entities. As an example, Breaking Bourbon has been a partner of ours on several barrels. We've done cross collaborations where members of both clubs and the admins of both clubs get together and select the barrel. And when that happens, obviously, the more palettes are involved, the more challenging it is to select it. But when you do select it, you kind of diversifying the risk of it being a dud, right? So I always look at it that way. All right, let's take a look a little bit into the future as to what are the top requested barrels for 2023. That's always an interesting exercise to me. And it's an interesting exercise because the top four, we've done it a few times, and the top four never change. It's always Old Forester, it's always Four Roses, it's always Russell's or Wild Turkey, same thing. And it's always one of the Sazerac portfolio barrels. And for those people that don't know what Sazerac portfolio barrels are, those are the brands that you are very well familiar with, such as Blanton's, Weller's, Taylor, Stag, all of those quote unquote tater brands that people always are on a hunt for. And, I don't really need an extra opinion about, having a need to bring those into the club. Whenever we have a chance to bring those in, we're always do. From this list, we had an opportunity to bring in Old Forester, and we did. In 2021, we brought in Four Roses, and then Four Roses messed up in New York, so they don't even have a single barrel program in New York. So that's that. But there's going to be more on Four Roses a little later in this presentation. With the Sazerac barrel, same thing. It's I've done multiple Instagram live sessions where I've explained how that process works with getting a Sazerac barrel. So I'm not going to repeat it here, but what I will say is that the rules, the three-tiered system, right? So the distillery, distributor, and the retailer, the three-tiered system is always skewed towards bigger retailers because those barrels are basically a carrot for a bunch of other SKUs that big box retailers can possibly move, but smaller ones like ours are just going to be stuck with. And for that reason, the chances of us getting Sazerac portfolio barrels are very slim. But now, having said that, we have brought 1792, and that's pretty much a staple for our club. So I'm very confident that this is going to continue. We've brought in Sazerac single barrels. There is an opportunity for us to probably bring in either Buffalo Trace or Eagle Rare sometime next year. So some of those barrels we will get, but the most sought after barrels, such as Blanton's and Weller's and Taylor's and Stag's, some of them aren't even available in New York. And the ones that are so few and far between that, like I said, only one or two top accounts in an entire state would get. And unfortunately, we're not there. So again, we're trying to mitigate this by expanding into different markets. And so that's in the works. But for now, I wanted to be upfront about that. Now, another thing that is interesting is that outside of these, handful of barrels that, it's obvious that people want them, and it's obvious that we would bring them in if we have an opportunity. There were a list of probably 50 plus different brands, most of them that we knew, but some we had no idea about. And while it's great to be introduced to different brands like that, I do want to stress one point. We are a club, but we're also a business. And while I would love nothing more but to bring you picks upon picks upon picks, we're always reliant on inventory and how fast it turns over. Meaning, if we sell out for the barrels quickly, I don't mind bringing in more and more and more. However, if we are left with dead inventory or leftover inventory, and a lot of times with the smaller known craft brands, that tends to be the case, it's not sustainable as a business. And so it's always a balancing act when we decide to bring something in versus passing on something. So I thought I'd mention that as well. So let's actually take a look at what's upcoming this year. In February, we released already Wilderness Trail bourbon. It's a few bottles are still available, I believe. Angel's Envy is going to be our next release at the end of the month. February 28th is when that barrel is going to drop. And it's worth mentioning that if you are a current customer, meaning if you've bought any of our prior selections, those people will always get 24-hour advanced window in which to buy or not to buy a bottle from a new drop. But we always want to incentivize loyalty, and this is our way of doing so. And then after 24 hours, if there is inventory left over, then that's when it gets open to the general public, gets posted on our website for everyone to see. So if some barrels are going to move faster than others, and sometimes they do sell out within the 24-hour window. So if you see something that I'm about to share, and you haven't bought anything from us before, maybe it's a good opportunity for you to do so that you get placed ahead of the queue, so to speak. All right. So then in March, that's where our premium membership launches. And with that launch, we have a Sagamore Rye single barrel selection that, the bottle from this barrel will be included in every premium membership. So when you buy a premium membership, you automatically are going to get at least one bottle of this Sagamore Rye. It's very delicious, and it was picked on one of those barrel picking expeditions that we've done with our members. If you want to take a look at how that went down, check out our Instagram, and you should see one of the pinned stories that it's all captured there. Later in March, we're going to launch a 9-year-old Elijah Craig barrel. It's not barrel proof. It's 94 proof for the reasons I've mentioned, for the reasons I've described before. And then a third barrel in March will be a New England Bourbon Company single barrel selection. New England Bourbon is a company that is on a rise. It's run by a gentleman who actually used to do what we do. He would, he was running a whiskey club, and he was selecting different barrels, and his palate was outstanding. And eventually he went into a whiskey making business. So you can look forward to that selection later on in March. In April, we're going to release a second prime barrel premium membership barrel, and that's going to be our own whiskey. This is something that we sourced ourselves. It is an MGP whiskey, but it's a very unique whiskey. It has a mash bill of 51 malted rye and 49 malted barley mash bill. And if you're paying close attention, it's the same mash bill that Smoke Wagon Experimental Rye has. And this particular selection is a 9-year-old selection. It's not every day that you get a 9-year-old whiskey nowadays. And so that barrel is going to be earmarked for people with premium membership. Again, if you want to take a look at what this bottle looks like, check out our Instagram. You'll see plenty of pictures of it there. Then after that, there's going to be a follow-up to a hugely popular Senator barrel. This one is going to be a year older now. The barrel that everybody liked was a 6-year-old rye. This one is a 7-year-old rye, and I would venture to say this one is even more delicious than the first one, which is hard to believe because the first one, as I said, was easily in my top 3 for the year. So I'm really looking forward to this release. And then the third barrel in April is going to be Nashville Barrel Company Rye, another vendor or brand that people have requested a lot. So it's definitely coming in April. All right, then in May, there's going to be yet another barrel that is slated for the premium members, and that's going to be a Laws whiskey. And again, it's a very unique whiskey that we selected virtually with our members. That is 100% malt finished in Calvados cask. And again, don't get put off by a wine finish or Calvados finish in this case. the whiskey itself was just outstanding. And you can check out our YouTube channel for the selection process, and you'll see how that came about. But the short and long of it is, we tasted everything blind. And the reason for that particular tasting was, I knew if I told people that one of the samples is Calidus finish, there would be preconceived notions. So we made a point of having to taste everything blind. And this particular expression was by far and away the most popular one. And when I told people what it was, a lot of jaws were dropped to the ground. So it's an interesting selection. It's a very unique one, but most importantly, it's a delicious one. We've talked a lot about Sazerac Rye. So we have another Sazerac Rye barrel coming through in May. So look for that then. And finally, we are going to launch a Smooth Ambler 6-year-old single barrel in May. And that's another barrel that was selected during a barrel picking expedition with our members. Okay, so past May, we have a whole lot of other barrels. And I'm going to leave this up on a screen for just a little bit for you to kind of digest this. But a few things stand out on here. First and foremost, the top two, Four Roses, 13 to 16-year-old bourbon. We don't really know which one yet because we haven't picked it, but it's a charity barrel. And along with the New Riff 9-year-old bourbon, which is also a charity barrel, both of these barrels were bought, or I should say won, at the auction earlier last year. I believe it was summer of last year. There was the East Kentucky got hit by tornadoes and floods, and a lot of people lost their livelihoods, and in some cases even their lives. And bourbon community has always a big heart, especially for the state that produces the liquid that we all love. So there were a lot of charities and charity auctions going on, and we won those 2 barrel selecting opportunities on these auctions. And the good thing about it is that the entire proceeds from these barrels are going to go to the people in need, which is great. And those 2 barrels, the experience of selecting those 2 barrels, and then obviously having a bottle from those barrels, are actually included in our paid membership, in the Tier 1 Plus membership. It's I'm going to talk a little more about that in a little while, but those 2 definitely stand out, and I can't wait for that experience. It's going to take place late July of this year. A few other things on here that's worth mentioning: a Blue Run inaugural single barrel bourbon. A Blue Run is launching their single barrel this year, and the way they do it is just I've never seen anything like this before. Every selection is going to take place at as they put it, strategic locations. And when I say strategic locations, I mean one of those locations would be a yacht, private yacht. Another selection would be done at one of the NFL stadiums at the 50-yard line. And there are a bunch of other crazy locations like that. Then you get to customize the bottle in which it comes, right down to the color of the butterfly on the Blue Run bottle itself. And then at the end of the year, they're going to host a gala where they will basically score and judge every inaugural selection. And, like I said, host a gala for people that picked it. It's just amazing experience. Our members, again, our paid members, some are paid members, I should say, will be a part of that experience, a picking experience, and then perhaps even a gala attending experience. So definitely wanted to highlight that. Starlight Cigar Batch is always a crowd pleaser. It's another barrel that is hard to get a lot of times, and we have one coming quite soon. Hirsch has been a crowd pleaser over the years. Found North is also it's an interesting project. We've done a custom blend with the help of our members last year. It was a black button. Most of you, and when I say most of you, 99% of you loved the final result. Some of you hated it. So again, that kind of speaks to one's man's trash, other man's treasure kind of thing. But we're going to do something very similar with Found North. The exception is we're actually going to travel to Boston, sit down with the founders of Found North, and go for the actual blending experience. It's going to be an amazing experience, and more importantly, it's going to yield an amazing whiskey. So That's another one that kind of stands out to me. But as you can see from this list, like there's a lot of good, intriguing barrels that are coming down the pike for the rest of 2023 and even into 2024. And let's actually talk about that. Let's talk about the barrel picking cadence. So one of the questions on the survey was, well, how often would you like us to see, barrels be released? And overwhelmingly, you guys say twice a month. So you want to see about 2 barrels to be released per month, which is fine. And if you do a math, if I go back to this list, to this list here, if you do the math, if we do 2 barrels per month, that puts us easily into 2024. So we have a lot of different barrels lined up for you. Point being is we're not going anywhere. The club is here to stay, and we'll have a lot of different barrels for you. Now, I do want to mention is that as club scales and more members join and become paying members, then we can definitely scale this cadence to once a week, where there are going to be more whiskey available essentially to support the growth. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. For now, as you've seen from the calendar, at least between now and May, we're planning on 2, tops 3 releases per month. Now let's get to start, stop, continue exercise. And essentially the point of this exercise is to look at some of the things that worked well in the past, in the year that just ended, some of the things that you didn't care for, and some of your suggestions on how to make our club better. So let's start with that. Let's start with your suggestions on how to make it better. So the first suggestion you guys have is to include virtual taster videos or live videos of each pick. And then similarly, include travel log from distillery visits. We already do that to some degree. Can we do a better job of it? Of course. We communicate to our members. We communicate through 2 platforms primarily. It's Discord and it's Instagram. So if you go to Instagram, you'll see a lot of different pictures and a lot of different stories from our distillery visits. So if you curious about how that goes, Instagram is the place for that. In terms of virtual taster videos, this is something that we can definitely be a little better about and start actually filming that. And we've done it with a couple already, most recently with the Wilderness Trail selection. So it's definitely something that we take to heart, and we'll try to institute moving forward. And by the way, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that we read every single suggestion that you guys make, every single one. And that is why it took this long to kind of summarize everything and put it in the format that is digestible. But we thank you for your suggestions. They are invaluable. Okay, the next one on this list is the lower shipping cost and perhaps even lowering bottle count requirement to get a free shipping tier. And in the same vein, some people want to use their own label. So let me address that. We can spend hours talking about it, and I will be as direct as possible. We always look for lowering any costs, including shipping costs. I don't quite know how other places do it. All I can tell you is that through our experience of kind of being in the e-com space and shipping things all over the place, we've pretty much gotten to a point where the shipping is as negligible as it's ever going to be. Now, having said that, there's a few things that goes into it. First of all, when you ship alcohol, you almost always have to include an adult signature requirement, and that requirement alone costs about $8. Secondly, we always insure a package. In the rare occasion that something happens to your package, it gets lost, it gets broken, it gets damaged, it gets replaced, no questions asked. To do that, shipment needs to be insured, and that costs money. In addition, our main objective when shipping something is for the package to get to you safely. That means extra packing cost. We bomb-proof, as they say, every package. And most of them, I mean, 99% of them get to you guys without an issue. And again, in a rare occasion when there is an issue, we will always be there for you. So for that reason, I don't necessarily see how lowering shipping costs is even possible, but we always look for that. And if opportunity presents itself, you can be rest assured that we'll take it and then pass on the savings to you. Now, in terms of the bottle count requirement, lowering, I should say, bottle count requirement for free shipping, I should probably first explain to new folks that we do have a free shipping tier, and that is when you buy any 3 bottles, you get a free shipping essentially. If I'm being completely candid about this, out of those 3 bottles, one of those bottles goes towards paying down that shipping. And that is exactly why we instituted that requirement, because it achieves 2 things at the same time. It depletes inventory faster, therefore allowing us to offer you a new selection. And it allows you to diversify the costs by not having to pay for free shipping. So I don't see that requirement being lowered. And that is just, God honest truth. And then finally, using your own label is completely out of the question because there are number of limitations when it comes to shipping alcohol. And let me just leave it there. So using your own label is probably not going to happen. Another suggestion was, hey, okay, so I understand your free shipping requirement, but can we then limit everything as a once-a-month release, but release multiple picks? Again, probably not going to happen for the reasons I just explained. The reason why we have the free shipping tier is to be able to move through a barrel quickly. If we release multiple selections at the same time, I totally understand how it would benefit just about everybody but us. And when I say that, what's going to happen is that instead of buying more bottles from the same barrel, people will just buy 1 bottle from each barrel, right? And that will mean that we wouldn't be able to deplete bottles as fast as we need to be able to continue to bring you selections that we have. So again, I am being completely upfront about it. It's not a secret, but I wanted to at least explain the reason behind why this suggestion, while a good one, is probably not realistic. In-person tastings, and that is definitely coming. We've done a couple in one of our locations in Brooklyn. Right now, we kind of limit it to the New York market, right? Because as I mentioned several times, we are based out of New York and Brooklyn, to be more specific, and all in-person tastings will need to take place there. Now, moving forward, and that is why we have regional channels in Discord, we are going to look to facilitate in-person tastings and bottle shares in local markets. That is definitely coming. It's in the works, so stay tuned. Win a bottle once per month or a spot in a barrel pick committee. That is a good suggestion. We can definitely make a barrel pick committee spot up for grabs once a month. That's not, and to be honest with you, that's exactly what we do. We randomly select people to be on a committee. Now, when I say randomly, there is some sort of criteria that we use, and a lot of that was tied to an interest in our premium membership. But once that goes live, that's going to be one of the perks of the membership, where people would be able to come with us physically and virtually select battles with us. So that is coming as well. In terms of winning a bottle once per month, I need to kind of think about whether this is going to be possible. But again, getting a little bit ahead of myself, we are going to have randomizers where people would be able to win a bottle of allocated bourbon, meaning something rare that you would normally overpay for in your local shop or even online, but we'll sell it to you at or very close to MSRP. And again, that's one of the perks that's going to be reserved for a premium membership. And I'll cover that in just a bit. Some of the suggestions included, why don't you include tastes similar in tasting notes? That is a difficult one. And it's a difficult one because everyone's palate is different. What you get out of pick a brand. Four Roses is going to be probably different from what we get out of it. And that stays true. That holds true for just about any brand. So we tend to stay away from tastes similar to. I understand the merit behind the suggestion, right? In trying to kind of pair a tasting note to something you do know, especially if it's a brand that you aren't familiar with. But our tasting notes are pretty much on point most of the time. And again, like you be the judge of them. When we release barrels, we always provide tasting notes. So you can go back and see if what you actually taste correspond to our tasting notes. And if they do, then you can put a lot more stock into it for brands that you're not really familiar with, but do trust our tasting notes and our palates. Remove friction of participating. I'm not quite sure what this is, to be honest. I believe a lot of you said that our website is pretty easy to use. I believe this was referring to some of the passwords that were needed to access new drops within that 24-hour window that I kind of described earlier. But to reiterate, we always give 24-hour advance notice to people that have purchased one of our selections before. And up to this point, the way this would work is that we would password protect the page and then send out a link with password to people that qualify. Now, with the premium membership launching, that is going to change. There's not going to be any more passwords to remember. There's not going to be any more links to send out. It's all going to be tied into your digital membership. And again, something I'll talk about in just a little bit, but that's probably what that point was referring to. Another great suggestion was to include a sample size bottles at extra cost next to the bottle you buy. It's interesting that a lot of times when people buy full bottles, they don't necessarily want to open them right away, but they do want to have a taste of what's in that bottle. So for that reason, quite a few folks kind of told me this separately and together, that, hey, if you include a sampler right along with a full bottle, we're much more likely to crack open a sampler right away and then leave a bottle for a special occasion. So operationally, that presents a number of challenges, but we're looking into how to make this happen. And if I had to guess, this would probably come to fruition at some point this year. Lottery for highly desired bottles. Yes, that is definitely going to happen for premium members. Again, something that I will cover in just a few minutes. And then food pairing suggestion. Again, this is very, I guess, subjective. Any barrel-proof whiskey goes well with hearty meals, meats, cheeses, and even sweets like chocolates, raisinets, that type of thing. That stands true for just about any of them. If you want to be a little bit more granular about it, we can try to do that, but a lot of times barrel-proof whiskeys, as I said, they're very bold in taste, and so you kind of need a meal that could stand up to it. And so, that's why the meats, the pungent cheeses, the chocolates are usually pair very well with whiskeys. All right, so that was all great suggestions. Now let's talk about what you guys didn't really care for. So this was surprising. Max profits with secondary pricing. I don't understand that comment, to be honest. I don't think we price our selections with max profits or secondary pricing. So I disagree with this one respectfully. If whoever posted that, if you want to reach out to me directly and kind of explain what this was about, I'm more than happy to entertain this. But the only thing that I could think of is that sometimes people confuse us with our retail partners, and our retail partners, their pricing policy is their pricing policy. We have nothing to do with it. So if your comment was directed towards them, then I would suggest, and point you to contact them directly. But in terms of the prime barrel selections, I think those are priced very competitively and, on par with what the market bears. NFT program. There was a good chunk of people that kind of disagreed with our vision, and that's normal. And honestly, that was expected. Again, we could spend hours talking about this particular bullet point. And actually, if you go to our YouTube channel, you will see a video dedicated to this very topic. So if you want to learn more about how this program came about and why, that would be a video to check out. But I'll say this. Personally, I've always been a person to move things forward. I am never satisfied with status quo, not to be different, but I always want to do better for our members. And, our life and tech and specifically, moves at very fast pace. And when we were presented with an opportunity to scale the club, you know, we needed to look for technology that could scale it without us being bogged down with administration of such club. And the blockchain technology allows you to do that through the use of smart contracts. So I wouldn't necessarily look at it as an NFT quote unquote program. I would look at it as a digital membership program. There are, bunch of subscription based whiskey clubs out there now. So this one isn't really going to be all that different from that, yet it's going to be very different for a few reasons. And again, I'm going to dive into it a little bit more just in a few minutes, but suffice it to say that this membership program is here to stay and we're moving forward with it. And I totally appreciate your feedback, but sometimes our vision is what our vision is. And if you disagree with it, then it's totally fine and it's your prerogative, but we are moving forward with this program. Non-whiskey selections, I've already talked about it. Our MO is to expand people's palates. So 95% of what we select will always be whiskey related, because after all, this is a whiskey club, but we will always push an envelope and select a barrel of a non-whiskey spirit, such as tequila or rum or Armagnac or even cognac. It's all really depends on an appetite of our members. And here's yet another reason to join Discord, because a lot of these selections and a lot of these decisions are made based on how you guys vote, and the voting takes place in Discord first and foremost, but we also sometimes solicit your input through the email. And if you haven't signed up, by the way, for our distribution list, you can do so on theprimebarrel.com. When you scroll down to the bottom of the page, this is where you can sign up. A lot of you said enough with the MGP juice. They're all different, but they're all the same. That was the overall feeling about it. Now, I'll say this, not all MGP is created equal. Some are much better than others. And again, to us, the provenance of the whiskey isn't as important as the taste. Now, having said that, I understand why people want to stay away from MGP or really have MGP fatigue. There's a lot of MGP juice out there. So in 2023, we tend to focus on distillery native distillates. And if you go back to the list of barrels that are coming up this year, you'll see that that holds true to most of them. And for the ones that are still MGP, again, you can be rest assured that the quality of that whiskey is just outstanding, and that's why we're bringing in. So that's my take on MGP. That was interesting, and that was an eye-opener, actually. The spreading too thin on charity donations. Again, for people that don't know, normally what we do, $5 from every bottle that we sell goes to different charities, and every barrel kind of supports a different charity, and those charities are being voted on and suggested by members. Guess where? Yes, in Discord. So somebody actually told us, well, instead of doing that and giving a little bit to a bunch of different charities, why don't we nominate a charity of the month, and then whatever launches in that month, all donations go towards that charity. This way, we're able to donate a little more to each charity. And so obviously the donation sum will be a little bit more sizable. And I thought this was a great suggestion. And, we already started to do that. So first in January, the January was dedicated to a very awesome charity that I personally donated to, and it's the Hate Dust Project. And this month, February, we are donating to the Bourbon charity. There's actually a charity called Bourbon Charity. So every month we're going to rotate those things, but I think that was a great suggestion. All right, let's take a look at the continuous suggestion. So all of the things here on this list are the things that you loved about our club and you would want us to maintain. As you can see, the virtual tastings have been a huge hit. We have virtual tasting essentially scheduled for the rest of 2023. And it's amazing. I mean, we tend not to overdo them because it's easy to overdo them. So we normally hold them once per month. And those fluctuate between a full portfolio of a brand to a full portfolio of a producer or a full portfolio of a wholesaler. And there are benefits to each one, right? When you do a brand tasting, then obviously you taste different selections from the same brand. Case in point, we did a brand portfolio tasting of Westward. And personally, and I know a lot of you are in the same boat, love just about every selection from them, which is great. And then this upcoming tasting that we have in March is going to be with actually a wholesaler portfolio that has many different selections in their portfolio. And so that allows you to taste all types of different whiskeys. And the one that's coming up, I'm super excited for it because it's going to feature whiskeys from all over the world. So we're going to taste some Japanese whiskeys, we're going to taste some Irish, some Australian, some Scotches. So it gives you a good introduction into different types of whiskey. So those are definitely here to stay, and I'm happy that you guys are valuing those. Virtual barrel picks, yes, we've done them in the past, and we will continue to do that. That's essentially when we send you guys samples, and then we jump on Zoom, and we select battles together. Community building, as I've said many times, to me personally, that's what it's all about. And we try to do this through barrel picking expeditions where people from all walks of life join us on barrel trips, on distillery trips, and on the barrel selecting trips. And people make lifelong friendships. I've personally made a couple of friends already doing that. And last year was the first year I was actually doing, no, we started this in 2021. So, but the point being is that this is one of the tenets of our club, and this will continue to happen. The free shipping tier for obviously people love. Yes, I know some of you want to see the requirement lowered, but I've already explained why that's probably not feasible, but the tier will always be there. Variety / non-tater selections and some tater ones. So like this is where you're going to have a lot of different opinions as to what the balance really should be. Again, if community building is one of the major tenets, the other major tenet of our club is to expand people's palates. And to do that, you need to have a good variety, a good balance of known commodities, things like, again, Old Forester, Four Roses, and, distilleries of that nature, balanced against some of the craft distilleries that you might never heard of, but might become a big fan of. And that has happened. So that will continue to happen as well. You guys seem to like our communication style, and we tend to communicate via Discord. That's our primary instrument for communication, but we also do Instagram. We're pretty active on that platform, and we always give you a heads up on upcoming drops. And on the day of a drop, we communicate via email and via text messages. And again, if you haven't signed up, go to primebarrel.com, scroll down to the bottom of the page, and that's where you can sign up. We will continue to reward loyalty. Now, moving forward, that might change a little bit. Just in terms of, because we are going to have a premium membership, obviously those people will have first dibs at any upcoming selections. That's one of the biggest perks of the premium membership. But rewarding loyalty is always on top of my mind, and we'll figure out other ways to get people rewarded. And then brand channels that, you tend to, you seem to like those brand channels. And for those that don't know, and again, that's another reason to join our Discord. I've said it, 10 times probably already, but it's a very valuable platform, and it's a very valuable tool for the club and club members. And brand channels, our strategic brand partners have a dedicated space in our Discord where you get to communicate directly with the brand, and brand gets to communicate directly with people that drink their stuff. And a lot of times that results in very interesting feedback and conversations and back and forth. So I would invite you to join the Discord, check out some of these brand channels, and those brand channels will only get expanded as we move forward. Going back to the virtual tasting for a second, we're very careful about not overdoing it. So doing it once a month seems to be an overwhelming preference, and so that's what we're going to roll with. In terms of what's coming up, I already mentioned the World Whiskey Tour. That tasting is going to happen in March, more specifically March 12th and 16th, I believe. We normally do 2 sessions, if possible, one during the week, one during the weekend, to give everybody an opportunity to participate. Then in April, we're going to do a portfolio of Bat's Hat whiskeys. In May, we are going to taste through Law's Whiskey House portfolio. In June 2023, we're going to do Cooper and Cask / Wheel Horse portfolio tasting, and perhaps there's a surprise in there as well, which I'm not going to disclose just yet. But those are just the ones for the first half of this year. And like I said, we already have a lot of these penciled in for the rest of the year. So more being scheduled as we speak. Those are here to stay. And like I said, I'm glad you guys are finding value in those. All right. And then finally, this is the last slide, I promise. Premium membership, right? So we've talked ad nauseum about premium membership for just under a year. I think the project started in April of 2022, and it's finally is here. So the launch date is going to be March 1st, 2023 at 11 a.m. Eastern and 8 a.m. Pacific. Now, for the people that are familiar with, NFT projects, normally there is like a mad rush to mint an NFT. And while I would love for that to happen, obviously, our project is different. Everything about this project is different, and it's not a typical NFT project, which is why I don't even call it an NFT project any longer. We just call it a digital membership. Because this is an ongoing membership, it doesn't really matter to me if it sells out on a first day or if it's a slow burn. I believe what will happen is that we have early adopters and people who are very passionate about the club and who see a value in perks of the club that will buy the membership on the first day that it's available. And then others are going to be on a fence until they see how it works and what the experience is, and that's totally fine. I would say is that spaces in top 2 tiers are very limited. So if you're on a fence too long, you might miss out. But I don't want to sound like a typical salesman, and so everybody moves at their own pace, and I totally respect it. But the launch date has been set. It's March 1st, 2023. And the fund starts at 11 a.m. Eastern and 8 a.m. Pacific, but we will notify everyone, again, as I said, through the email and via text messages. Let's talk about benefits. And let me actually switch over to our website. Okay, so what we are looking at now is our membership project webpage, and the URL for it is membership.primebarrel.com. And if you scroll down halfway through the page, you will land on benefits and pricing. So right off the bat, what I want to call your attention to is that this membership is a lifetime membership. As I've mentioned before, there are other whiskey clubs that charge you some sort of a fee on some sort of a cadence. It could be a monthly fee, it could be an annual fee, whatever that is. And a lot of times those fees go up. This is how this club is going to be very different. This is a lifetime membership. You pay once and you are in it as long as you hold your digital membership or as long as you hold your NFT. And this NFT, this digital membership, can be passed on. So if you're looking to gift it to your son or to your father or to whomever, you can easily pass it on to them. So it can become a generational affair almost. So that's one of the bigger differentiators between our model versus a standard model. Now, I understand that the standard model are probably easier to digest just in terms of the fees, right? Like it's easier to pay $15 or whatever it is a month versus an amount that we're asking. But again, when you look at this amount, you have to balance it against rising costs of other memberships versus this kind of lifetime one-time fee, and that's it. So that's that. Now, we have 3 different tiers: Tier 1 Plus, Tier 1, and Tier 2. We kind of started with 2 tiers, but expanded into Tier 1 Plus when we won those 4 Roses and New Riff charity barrels. And so the Tier 1 Plus is only limited to 7 seats. Now, what do you get for 7 seats? You get all of these things right here. So I guess the most important ones are going to be all expenses paid trips to Kentucky to select those 4 Roses barrel and the very first and only New Riff 9-year-old barrel. Now, when I say all expenses paid, the airplane ticket isn't covered, so you have to get yourself to Kentucky. But once you get yourself to Kentucky, everything is going to be covered: a hotel, meals, transportation, VIP experiences, and some surprises. For example, the 4 Roses experience includes a dinner with Brent Elliott. So that doesn't happen every day. And so, that's what I mean by all expenses paid and VIP experience. So look for that. Now, you might think, well, why is it only 7? Well, because these distilleries don't allow more than 6 or 7 people to participate in these barrel picks. So that is why that is limited to that. Now, outside of that, Tier 1 and Tier 1 Plus memberships are basically a mirror copy of each other. One other perk that is Tier 1 Plus specific is going to be what we call stacked orders. And that is, we will allow those 7 people an opportunity to buy a bottle, then have us hold it until they reach their free shipping status, and then we can send those to them. Unfortunately, we can't extend that to everybody just yet, just because of the space constriction that we have in Brooklyn. We just don't have a space to hold that many bottles. There are many different reasons for why we can't just yet expand that perk to everybody, but for 7 people, we can make it happen. So, but other than those 3 top perks, everything else between Tier 1 Plus and Tier 1 is pretty much the same. And the value of the membership, honestly, if you ask me, is in first access to stuff, right? You don't necessarily have to buy it, but you'll always have a first opportunity to buy it. Now, Tier 1, as I've mentioned, is also limited. It's limited to 193 seats. And the reason for that is the average yield of a barrel is about 200 bottles, right? Give or take. And if you're buying a paid membership, and one of the major perks of it is advanced access, we want you to maximize that perk. And that means you get first dibs at any new selection. Again, you don't have to buy a bottle, but you have an opportunity to do so should you want to. For whatever bottles that are still left over after Tier 1 is done with them, after 48 hours, I should say. So 48 hours is going to be the advanced window for Tier 1 and Tier 1 Plus for every new drop. Then Tier 2 folks get their access. And then if there is anything else after that, if there's anything left after that, then the general public gets their hands on it. So as we scale the club and more seats are taken, then there's going to be less bottles to go around. But again, we can mitigate that by bringing in more barrels. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Another value of the membership is essentially, and this goes back to what I've said earlier about building a community and building a kind of lifelong friendships and relationships, is just that, is people participating in common activities that everyone enjoys. And, that goes both in person and virtual. If you've been with us to any of these selections, you'll know firsthand exactly what I mean. And if you haven't, I kind of wish that you would take a chance on this and do partake in these experiences, because those are truly bucket list items for most people that enjoy whiskey. So those are some of the perks of the membership. Again, we have another video dedicated to the entire project. Take a look at our YouTube channel. It's called Ask Me Anything session about our NFT program. And there's a lot of questions that are answered there. And I should mention that our website has a bunch of videos. If you've never dealt with crypto, which I would assume a lot of people watching this haven't, we've produced a lot of these how-to videos. Each of them is only a minute long, but it basically digests everything that you're going to need to know in order to be able to partake in this. And it's not a lot, honestly, it's not a lot. And there's also a space here for a white paper download. Basically, essentially, it's a business plan for all intents and purposes that outlines what it is that we're trying to do with this project. So you can download it and read through at your own leisure.
So that's it for benefits. In addition to those benefits, here's a list of all of the barrels that are going to be earmarked exclusively for paid members. Those include that Blue Run inaugural barrel selection that I mentioned. That includes Prime Barrel selection, our own whiskey, which I also described. That would also include a Found North experience and the resulting whiskey, which promises to be fantastic. Starlight Cigar Batch, it's one of those very hard to get barrels, which is going to be earmarked to the members as well. And obviously, two charity barrels. Those are some of our most sought after barrels, and it would stand to reason that our paid members will get first dibs at them. Uh, Battle picking expeditions will continue in 2023. That is also a big perk of the paid membership. Um, and here you can see all of the planned trips that we have in 2023. That list is not all inclusive. There might be more, but these are the ones that we have planned as of right now. And the first one is actually coming up in Colorado at the end of the March. You can see all of those distilleries that we're planning on visiting. That doesn't mean that we're going to be picking a barrel at every single one, but I can tell you that we will be picking a barrel with Old Elk, and we're also going to do it with Greg Metzi, who is a celebrity in the space. This is the guy who spent his big portion of his career at MGP perfecting his trade, and then switched over to Old Elk and grew that program to what it is today. And so we will be picking a barrel right along with it. And other distilleries in Colorado will, we'll see what happens. If we find something very irresistible, then we'll pick a barrel of it. If not, it's going to be essentially distillery tours, meet and greets, and behind the scenes looks. The next one, we'll travel to Boston, and that's the Found North experience that I've talked about. So I'm really looking forward to that. We're going to travel later this year to Atlanta to pick a barrel with ASW. Um, they're known for their Fiddler whiskey, and more specifically, they have their own Umburana finish barrel, which is going to be one of our selections. And while in Atlanta, we'll make a stop at Short Barrel brand and hopefully pick a barrel with them as well. Then obviously the charity battle trip, that bucket list item, will take place at the end of July. And finally, Blue Run experience. I still don't know when and where it will take place, but it promises to be epic. And once again, it will be exclusive to our paid members. So here we have it. Combined, take the benefits, combine it with exclusive barrels, and then those exclusive barrel pick expeditions and trips. I believe the value for the membership is quite clear and it's definitely there, but it's going to be up to you to decide that. Hopefully, you'll take a chance with us and join us.
Well then, you still here? Thanks for that. Kidding aside, I thank you for your time. I thank you for being a part of our club over the years. I thank you for submitting your feedback. And if you're new, hopefully it gives you an insight into how club operates and what's in the store for us, for our members in 2023 and beyond. For me personally, the club was always meant to be a community builder. I love making new connections over a dram, over a liquid that we all love and enjoy. At the end of the day, it's all about that. It's about people connecting, it's about people meeting new people, and I've been a witness of that already happening on multiple single barrel expeditions that we conducted with our members. Doesn't happen without you. So again, thank you for being with us, and cheers to the rest of the 2023.